you're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just poor little me.
Do you feel it?
Yes, we do.
A worldwide awakening is upon us. Welcome to the Universal Consciousness Show.
The Universal Consciousness Show,
where we explore topics such as UFOs, aliens, banned medical cures, as well as classified secret knowledge. Come question your holographic existence. Share experiences from the other side. This is a show that will expand your mind as we decrypt the symbolic messages locked away deep within your DNA. And now, your guides for this magical journey. The hosts of the Universal Consciousness Show, Augie Nost and Diana Seraphim.
Hello. Here we are with the Universal Consciousness Show again, coffee in hand and ready to go. Yes, you are listening to the show for the thinking global citizen. My name is Augie and I'm one of the hosts, and I have my co-host with me all the way from over in Germany. Hello, Diana.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and before I introduce the guest today, I want to tell you how you can connect with us. You can visit us on our website. It's www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And we are on YouTube with the same name. And please subscribe while you're there. That's going to help us a lot. And then when you subscribe, also click that little bell that comes up next to it, so you will get notifications when new videos are coming out. That's going to be important. And for those of you who like to hear this show again, you can find us on the universal-consciousness-show.com website, of course, and also on YouTube and of course on KCOR Radio in the archives on their website at kcorradio.com. We are there under Universal Consciousness Show, and we are on Twitter, iTunes, TuneIn, Alexa, Facebook, and a few other places where we put it. So you will find us. And there is another thing, and that is that down at the bottom when you are at the kcor.com website, there is this phenomenal feature at the bottom of the page, and that is a donate button. If you like what you hear and if you follow us there, we would love for you also to show your gratitude that way, because that will help us a lot. It tells us that we are doing the right thing. And now to the guest. We have Rebecca Renee returning to the Universal Consciousness Show. And she is the creator of Angels 911. That's a program which features real-life angelic interventions for people who had their life on the line. And this was inspired by a mother and her daughter who did get angelic help through what Rebecca was able to do for them when their life was on the line. And after listening to this, you will no longer just wonder if there is spiritual entities behind the curtain, willing to help us if we ask for it or when we need it. You will know. Now, she has also had 3 near-death experiences, which I like to hear about. And those are always interesting because it also points to the direction that, yes, we are not alone. She is also a cellular memory healer. And that's kind of an enigmatic term, kind of tough to understand maybe, but did you know that for cellular memory, it doesn't have to be only your own. It could come from your parents, your grandparents, your and grandparents. Some of their cellular memory from good or bad experiences can be transferred through generation all the way down to you, and it can give an effect in your life. That's amazing. And there is healing there, and Rebecca could be able to help you with that. She also teaches languages of light, and there is something called angelic soul retrieval. Yeah, I know that sounds kind of far out there, but there is actually some science behind this. And if somebody is really lost and have no clue who they are or what they're supposed to do, she can actually help them by regaining themselves, by creating new and positive neural pathways in the brain, which lead to healing of trauma, especially horrific trauma in their past. So people can regain themselves through this type of healing, and it feels like they got their soul back. And now, folks, this is going to get deep here. So lean back, put your feet on the table, and have another deep cup of coffee and enjoy the ride. So welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Hi. Thank you. Hi, thank you so much for joining us again. In the last show that we had in February, you told us a squeezed story about how you get on this path. Could you please shortly summarize how did you discover your skills that you are using today in your wonderful healing work?
Yes, absolutely. There would be several things. My family have similar gifts, but for each family member, they're a little different. Like my grandmother was a medium. I won't say a practicing medium. She wasn't like doing readings for people, but she was one who was able to strongly connect with the other side and have interesting things happen with that. Some of them were more psychic in other ways of, don't do this, or I'm seeing this for you, or things like that. It's definitely for me a family thing that I believe is sort of inherited, but just for me, it took more of a path, anything of healer. I would say I kind of took that route a little higher than family members, but they all had super amazing intuitive abilities in one way or another. Some of them, were in the closet with it because, different generations back then, it's more open now to talk about this and to practice it. But it's definitely a family thing I inherited and then explored. At age 14, I knew that I thought about being a psychologist, so I knew it was going to be helping people or more. And I knew at one point a year later, I knew it would be leaning more towards general healing, like energy healing and different things like that. So and the gifts also, I think I might have mentioned this on the last show, like being in elementary school, I was particularly overly sensitive and like telepathic, like kind of knowing what people were thinking, and at a young age and trying to tune out noise chatter, like psychic energy in a classroom setting was overwhelming for me sometimes, and being empathic too and picking up on emotions at school. So those were kind of part of, as a lot of us have those aspects to us. Those were some of the early, I guess, signs of going down this path.
Yeah, and I imagine that back in those days, not that long ago, but, let's say 20, 30 years ago or so, it was a little different to talk about things that we talk about now. I can feel that right now there is people that if I had talked to them 30 years ago about this, they would have just shook their head and walked away, but now they're listening.
Right. Yeah, and even, with children, a lot of them are so psychically open. Even like with my daughter, before school, she'd miss the bus sometimes, and I'd be like, well, you were supposed to be in the bathroom, finishing brushing your teeth or whatever. And she's like, well, I was talking to my friends, which I automatically knew were her guides. And she literally, like, to see her, like, oh my God, where's she at? The bus is coming. I would catch her in trance, literally like a psychic medium goes into, sometimes staring into space, conversing with these beings. And it was amazing. And I didn't, because I knew what was going on. I didn't, say, oh, you're crazy or your imaginary friend. I was like, I kind of encouraged that stuff. So,
but can you see the beings that she's talking to?
With her at that time, I more felt them. I didn't so much get a visual, but I felt their presence in the bathroom with her. And they were light beings. They were, I don't know, probably encouraging her for something she was going through, is I believe what that conversation was about. But it was all, all in her, literally in her own universe. And it was like, wow, like, oh my gosh, she's so much like me. that kind of thing. So I do see, the family, where the stuff can run in families. And on some level, we're all psychic. I mean, we all have abilities. Just, I think some people are, more sensitive to receiving messages or feeling or seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're talking about your daughter like that, she had people that visited her, or people, well, I'm using the term with tongue-in-cheek here, but there's someone visited her, but you have the same thing. What can you tell us about that?
Right. Oh, with the angels or entities, in general. I was the same way. For me, even just seeing, apparitions in my bedroom as a child, things like that. And when you're a kid, you can get scared, and things like that. But definitely. And I even remember other times in childhood, again, it was going into a trance. There's something about that. Even, in shamanism, they'll do drumming to get you, into a so-called trance. And I did that often and went into other worlds and dimensions. And just kind of like we also do that sometimes when we're driving on a long road trip. It's very hypnotic. And when you get into those states of consciousness, a whole other worlds open up that sometimes others can't see. And you do kind of learn that along the way on how to talk to certain people, that aren't as accepting. And I don't want to say dumb it down, but I've done that before sometimes just to avoid judgment from someone who's more, I guess, third dimensional, and they only see through that lens, you know what I mean? So
those entities that came and visited you, when you saw them, what did they look like?
Depends on which time. I've had several experiences, but for me, with some of the angels, I'll go through some of the different entities. For me, the angels, I've had ones that would sometimes come in so strong, and in a sense, they don't so much appear as winged beings. That's, kind of like we were talking the other day, more for our human aspect that loves all that, but sort of like a tall column of light, very different in frequency depending on what you're tapped into. For me, one time I was getting ready to do a session. I was actually in a friend's bedroom in New York City. And I started kind of preparing for the session. It was someone with a really intense issue. And one of the angels came in so strong that I don't want to say I was frightened, but I was, the love vibration was so intense was the one thing that it overwhelmed me. And I had to, again, and I've had to do this before, adjust my frequency to align with this being who wanted to work through me during the session. And for a minute, I was like telling it to go away, even though it was a beautiful angelic presence. It was super strong for me. So I've had those experiences come like that. Sometimes, extraterrestrial beings will sort of take on a form or show a face. But a lot of times the angels will just be either a frequency or a tall column of light, sometimes almost blinding. And the body will heat up tremendously, sometimes to the point of sweating when they come in. For me personally, I know everyone works different. Pure sweating. My clothes will be drenched after a session when they come in that strong. And that doesn't always happen. A lot of times it's more subtle. But that's some of the angelic experiences sort of happen that way. Other times it'll be very electric, where my body will vibrate so strong and fast to the point where a couple times it's been uncomfortable, like when you're channeling a being like that, to feel like you're sort of being electrocuted in a mild sense, but yet what you can do with that amount of power coming through you, or that energy, you can do things like dissolve a tumor, rebalance someone's energy field rather quickly, or open up their meridians, or, their chakras or whatever.
Yeah, that energy, that kind of permeates both you and the subject you're working with. So that can restructure a lot of maybe the DNA, and possibly, like you said, do away with the tumor. That there is a lot of stories of people that have had visitations like this, and then they find themselves cured afterwards.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And with myself in doing, even some things happened over the years, but it's interesting because I'm in my late 40s, but in my late 20s, I had, and it was I lived in a northern state, so I always blamed it on the dampness, but I had like a significant amount of arthritis in my spine, and that's a pretty young age to have something like that. And over the course of several months, things like that. Yeah, it was like a little by little, I'd feel the density leaving my spine. So like, okay, I processed something that's going on related to this. And then that one took a course of several months, but I definitely don't have that anymore. And other things in myself, particularly, I had a uterine fibroid. It was, I want to say, about 5 centimeters. And I got it down to under 1 centimeter. Last time I had it like ultrasound, it was down to 1 centimeter. So some things do take longer, but sometimes the body vibrates the densest, so that sometimes the outer layers will heal first, like the spiritual layer or the mental layer or the emotional layer. And then the physical layer follows the outer layers of the auric field, and then the healing comes.
When you're talking about the outer layers and the inner layers, are you indicating that might be like bodies? You have the mental body, you have the physical body, the astral body, and the different bodies like that?
Yes. So what happens, I found over the years. So, for example, say the highest outer astral layer or the spiritual layer. So that's, the part that's the least connected to the body, but yet still connected because we're incarnated. But that's the part where we have all of our paranormal experiences, like our angels, our extraterrestrials, deja vu, precognition, psychic impressions. And then that vibrates the fastest. So it's like super fast. And then we go down to the mental layer, which vibrates pretty fast. So, our thought realms, our beliefs that even we may have inherited, what we believe to be true about ourselves and the world, which can be vastly different for everyone. And, we can have blocks in all those layers. So, and then we go to the emotional layer, a little closer to the body. And, that vibrates a little denser, and all of our emotions, including the heavy ones, and then the physical. So like the outer layers clear out usually before the physical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of like most diseases. They show up in the bioelectromagnetic field before they show up in the body too.
Yeah, that's exactly it, just in a different explanation. Yeah, It's like almost like a blueprint, an etheric blueprint we have. Yeah, it's phenomenal to know about all this stuff and be able to work with it.
Yeah, how many bodies do you feel like we have?
Oh gosh, there's different schools of thought. Those are the ones that primarily appear to me, but in a sense, like they extend to me. Like I noticed even in my spiritual growth and progression, like there was a time where I experienced my own aura, say, I don't know, within 12 feet of my body or something like that. And over years of doing work and working with the angels and meditation and just expanding the gift, I mean, years and years of dedication to it, I noticed, and this was particularly around 2013, I noticed that my aura got huge. And I'm sure with each and every one of you, you're very similar in many aspects with that. And the challenge with that was a lot of vertigo, sort of being more in your outer body than your inner body, you know, being in that. And so I noticed that maybe the layers were the same, but it was so much more expanded, where I learned, oh my gosh, I could be sitting, you know, in a football stadium and expand my aura to cover and encompass everything in it. And what a dizzying, but really cool feeling that is. It would be almost a feeling like spreading your wings, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're so much bigger than we think we are.
Yes, we are.
Energetically.
And have you taken a Carillion photo of the aura ever?
I have. It's been a while, though. The last time I did that was in Sedona, and I want to say 2012. And I wasn't so much, the device my friend was using wasn't so much able to show the width or the length, but yeah, all the colors and showed up in it. And I've also done, I don't know if you guys have heard of Dr. Streeter. He's pretty awesome. He'd be a great guest on your show, but he created the one where you can see the auric field inside the body and therefore diagnose disease from it. It's kind of like proof of things like a healer can usually feel or sense, like density or heaviness. Yeah, it's a biofield actually. What's the word he calls that? A biofield something. Yeah. And we had him down. We did an event down here in Florida, and it was so fascinating because I know we have a break coming up, but a friend of mine I worked with in Tampa for several months, he had a lot of issues with his dad, and it would show up in his right kidney. And what was left of the issue he hadn't processed showed up in this device in the exact spot where I had worked with him for a few months. So yeah, I've had those done. So I've had the inner energy, and then of course the aura, the scanning that reads the outer aura too. A while back.
And we're coming up on a break here, but I definitely, if you have the chance, folks, get your picture taken of the aura, because that is something that is so unique. You'll love to see it. And we are going to break. We're going to be back with Rebecca Renee afterwards, and I want to talk about her near-death experiences and also this program, Angels 911.
You're listening to the Universal Consciousness Show.
The Universal Consciousness Show.
Your weekly connection to the truth.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Share your knowledge by calling our hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Call now.
Worldwide callers find us on Skype at KCOR Radio. It's time to abandon your fear and question what you think you know.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
More awakening awaits.
After this, after this, after this, after this, after this, after this.
Hello, KCOR listeners. Lorianne Fenton here from the Fenton Files to tell you how to watch UFOCon 2020, which was held right before the virus scare and shelter in place. It was a conference like no other, so don't miss out on the specially priced on-demand replay of what is already the most talked about conference of 2020. Visit UFOCon2020.com. That's UFOCon2020.com.
Monday nights are about to become hauntingly good, as Reverend Sean Whittington possesses the airwaves with Vegas Supernatural. Tune in every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Vegas Supernatural, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. There's a war raging between good and evil. The question is, which side are you fighting on? Tune in Monday nights as Reverend Sean Whittington sets the new standard for paranormal radio with some of the most influential personalities in the world today. Vegas Supernatural, hosted by Reverend Sean Whittington, every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The one show even the devil doesn't want you to hear.
KCOR Las Vegas.
All the time.
Of course I listen.
I listen all day. It's the best music.
KCOR, the new underground source for news, talk, and music at KCORradio.com. Tell your friends, email them, or Facebook them, or Twitter them.
Hey, are we done here? Because I'm losing my buzz.
Bowl for Life is a non-profit organization founded in 2013 by Chuck Gardner with one simple goal: to grow the sport of bowling worldwide. Over the years, Bowl for Life has given out thousands of dollars in scholarships to youth bowlers around the world. Our focus is to nurture integrity, honesty, professionalism, as well as respect into bowlers both young and old. You can help us by going to bowlforlife.com. Even the smallest donation goes a long way to breaking down the barriers and helping us assist people of all ages to improve their skills as well as knowledge of the game. Bowl for Life is happy to be partnered with other great organizations like the Youth Education Services Fund, as well as the United States Bowling Congress, with many spectacular integrated events planned in the near future. To learn more, go to bowlforlife.com. That's bowlforlife.com.
Are you ready to go? It's showtime!
Here we go, world.
You're listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Broadcasting from the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Their base is so large it has to draw most of its power from the nearby nuclear fusion plant.
The future of radio is here and now.
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
It's time, once again, to unravel the mysteries of the universe by connecting the dots to a higher consciousness. This is the Universal Consciousness Show.
The Universal Consciousness Show.
Now the world will begin hearing us.
Share your knowledge by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
It's as simple as that.
Find us on Twitter at KCOR Radio or use hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us on the live chat at KCORradio.com. Back to your enlightened hosts, Avi Nast and Diana Serafin.
Hello, hello. We are back with the Universal Consciousness Show, and we're talking with Rebecca Renee. And after the break here, I want to hear some of the information she can talk about, because she had near-death experiences, and I think she had 2 or 3 of them. And that is one of the things that always has been fascinated to people, because the stories are different but has some very major similarities by being out of the body and seeing yourself. So let's mention some about that, Rebecca. How did these near-death experiences happen for you?
Yes, well, and they are. 2 of them were, I think I talked about the one, but I'll gladly, it's interesting. I'll talk about the one again where I got really sick. But before I get to that one, 2 of them were almost near-miss car accidents. And it was so interesting because we were talking about Las Vegas. One of them actually, I was in Las Vegas at the time and traveling, used to do a lot of traveling to do with spiritual events. It's obviously kind of slowed down right now, but we had to return a rental car. And the trip was, I think, going down to Phoenix. I can't recall which way we were going, north or south, but we had a 5-hour drive. And that was one of them. Let's see here. Okay. Getting ahead of myself. That was one of them where my friend was driving and I felt a presence, and the only thing I could call her, I would say, would be the angel of death. And I've only felt that presence during 3 times that could have been exit points for me. And it was so weird. We started and embarked on the trip, and I immediately had this vibe like, don't travel tonight. And my friend was like, well, we have to get the rental car back. We're on a deadline, and we have to go. And I just looked at him and I was like, we're not supposed to be traveling. And I'd say it was probably within a half hour to 35 minutes. I looked over at him and realized he was asleep. And in a split second, we were about to go into one of those nice pointy tall mountains in the Vegas area. We were going probably 90 miles an hour at that point. And it was basically one of those act quick situations. I started shaking him and kind of screaming, and he regained control of the car. But if you would have seen, I would say we might have even been at that point going faster than that. And it was very late at night, and it was a very like groggy time. It was like we were both really, really tired from traveling. But that was one. I don't want to call it a minor one, but I didn't so much go out of the body, but I had the vibe, the feeling before not to go on the trip. And then the other one, which was almost a near miss car accident, was another time of late night travel. And I felt that same presence again. And this one's a little interesting. And I was like, I said, you know what, we should get a room for tonight. And he's kind of like, no, we have to be, we were headed to Burbank, California to do a show called Streaming for the Soul, my friends and I. And at that time too, I felt we shouldn't be on the road. And I felt her presence again. I called her the angel of death. I mean, a really bad, sick feeling. And I'd say it was roughly around 3 a.m. And I started falling asleep, and it was so weird because I kept thinking, don't fall asleep. You cannot let him drive. Like, I was just really antsy and had the horrible vibe again. And I looked in front of us, and all of a sudden the cars were stopped, and we were probably going, I don't know, at least 80 miles an hour. And at the rate of speed we were going, we should have ran right into the back of a semi. And as we got closer, once again, it all happened fast. I looked to the right, and there was a semi flipped on its side. And I'm assuming they didn't make it, but somehow miraculously, I put an antenna out to the universe. I don't know how we stopped. We should have literally crashed full on into the semi in front of us, but something happened where we were able to abruptly stop the car. We were going very fast, and it was so weird. I was so nervous that after we stopped, I sat there and I looked, and I was like, I don't know how this just happened, almost as if I jumped a timeline. And it was so weird. I looked up to the sky, and in that moment, I saw the biggest shooting star that I had ever seen right in front of my eyes. And I felt all the assistance that helped stop the car. I mean, it was tremendous. In that moment, I felt them directing their energy and pushing the car back, as almost if I did a quick replay of that incident, which was very scary. And then the third time was being physically sick, when I had a fever of almost 107. And yeah, I guess you're brain dead at like 108. And I was had just given birth to my youngest daughter, and I had a kidney infection that backed up into the bloodstream, and I became septic, and all my organs were shutting down. My heartbeat was so high that it was interesting, because you know how through meditation and stuff that I had known over the years, I was in my body that little tiny bit to where I'd be like, okay, I still have control of my body. Like monks can sit on ice and not freeze to death. So I have control here. And I started like telling my heart to slow down and things like that. And at one point, they come in and they did like a code thing on me. Like I had people rushing around me, and they were like looking like she's not going to make it. And at that point, I had traveled out of my body, and I would say, going back in time, I was sort of hovering in the left corner of the room, talking again with the one I would call the angel of death. And we did a life review. And she showed me everything that would happen from a bird's eye point of view. Like your daughter's going to live to be 16. If this happens to you, she's not going to progress her life past that. The other one will be fine, but she said the younger daughter wouldn't. And different effects that leaving at that time would have on the family. Oh my gosh, so many things about the future. And it was basically, she just looked at me and said, because it's tempting when you are that far out of your body, even in meditation, if you're that far out and you're in those blissful dimensions, there's always a part, I don't want to come back to my body and be here, and stuff like that. And it was very tempting to keep floating and drifting right on out and letting the cord be severed. But at the same time, seeing the knowledge that they gave me about what everyone's path would look like, and then me not completing the mission and all the people I would help with healing down the road and different things, I said I'll stay and do this mission, and then one of the nurses did something and made me laugh. She told a blonde joke, and normally I would have been really annoyed, but I thought it was hilarious because she had blonde hair too. And I started giggling, and all of a sudden I popped back into my body, and I felt a rush of energy go through all of my chakras, and sweat started pouring out of me, and I felt the fever was going to start dissipating, and the sweat just came pouring out, and it lowered the body temperature. And I think I stayed in the hospital like a week after that, and then came home and did an IV at home. But it was quite a far journey out of the body with all the organs shutting down and everything. And just it is so tempting to go, like undeniably, because it's like you're home. You know what I mean? You're going home. And you get homesick, but now we're at the point where we can bring home to us as we go into meditation, and we can touch that spot without so much having to leave our bodies anymore. But you do learn a lot in the blink of an eye about the spirit realm, and just about the fact that we really don't die. The body's just physical density, that you're still real, you can still see things on some level, and in fact your perception's probably even higher. There's so much like you kind of know so much more. You don't have to I don't know. Your psychic senses are way open, like they're way open in that moment, and just looking at your timelines, like as if you were in an airplane or a spacecraft, like, wow, this is what this looks like, and this looks like over here. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, the thing also is that when you're out there like that, it feels like home, and you're looking back at yourself, and it's God, that body is already, it's got problems. I don't really want to go back to those problems, because it is so tempting, like you said, and you feel the love, and you know that being in that body is not really my home. Here is the home.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And there is a part of us that, in some level can get homesick. I've always thought that, even in working with like suicidal people, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm really going to intend to bring home to them, because they want to leave their body so bad and not be here. And it can be challenging here, of course, and the homesick part, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. And for the suicidal people, though, that is usually because of outside things that is happening to them. And the outside influences is leading them towards suicide. So maybe a little more education of what's going on around them could help, in addition to the spiritual.
That too, and then too, when it's not them, just the soul wanting to go back into the unified field or the light or whatever. Sometimes just not knowing how to work out a problem, or fear, like, someone loses their job. I've heard of that countless times, like, or even with general depression, like not understanding, like, I know a lot of depression's called, it's said to be in the mind, but the heart holds tremendous energy of depression too, and not knowing that you can release those energy blocks and become light as a feather. There's other ways to there's ways to lighten, to become less dense, less heavy. And some people, they don't don't know that, or they've never felt that, or yeah.
Yeah, and also when you mentioned that when you were driving and had these near accidents, we do get warnings. And a lot of times we don't listen to those warnings. So, gosh, I've had them, and a lot of people have. So we need to listen to ourselves.
Exactly. And for some people too, it's discerning what the voice is. And honestly, at those times, the voice was booming and loud. It was very clear, like, don't be on the road tonight. There's either you're going to be in an accident or there's one ahead, or, you know what I mean? You could be involved in it. It was just that premonition of like, yeah. And in the presence, like I'm speaking to you. Are you listening? Like,
yeah. Yeah, we got.
But what about the healing through the near-death experience? Because we saw so many cases where the people with terminal diseases are coming back from the near-death experiences, and their body is going in a total remission. Do we need to die in order to access this kind of healing information, or it could be accessed like that?
Oh my gosh, no. And, back in the past, one of the main purposes of death was to do our life review and kind of assess like where we're at. Have we accomplished at least some of what our soul came here to do? Like, where are we at in this life review? How are we treating people? Do we have regrets? And a lot of times you get to do it really quick with a near-death experience, especially being sick and with the cancers and things like that, to where sometimes they'll go down that route and it's such a huge wake-up call for them. And it's like they come back totally transformed, usually with a profound sense of mission, and a lot of times bringing back so much more of their soul's energy. So all that radiant soul energy, along with whatever angels they've connected with, will sometimes totally regenerate that body into sometimes better than before when they had the experience. And sometimes they will change their diet, and all sorts of things come about with that. And sometimes it was maybe a soul needed experience. Like the soul called for that experience for whatever reason. We always question stuff like that. Like, why would I want to go through that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a dumb thing to do. That's what I've been telling myself.
Right.
Oh God, and the thing about it is that when we're outside like that, we're looking at our physical experience like there is no trauma. We just look at it as experiences, and then we take on this body, and now we're suddenly feeling that crap again. It's just bad news.
I know, and it's interesting. I've been to not any recently like this, but a few group gatherings where one was with a good friend of mine. She's a shaman. I haven't talked to her in years, but she was telling me a story where she would take people so far out of their body, and natural travel is beautiful, but one guy, they thought he was going to pass away because he was so far out. And I mean, they were all like really good psychics. They're measuring like, oh my God, he's way out there. And it seemed like he was sleeping and wouldn't wake up. I guess it took a few hours. And just from something like meditation, he went so far out, and they traveled out to gather him and bring him back into his body. But to them, it looked like, oh my God, did he slip into a coma? Like, I'll never forget that story. And then another time I was at a spiritual retreat in Tubac, Arizona, and we had a guy, and he was older too, and he was so far entranced and out of his body that we started getting a little worried. Like, did he quit breathing during the meditation? Like, what happened? So yeah, it's definitely, like you said, we come back, we look at this body, and we're like, oh God, do I want to come back to this? And
there's so much better on the other side. Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
But with our rising consciousness, where we can get to those places where we can feel that freedom as we become less dense. Even like looking back, the angel showed me like 5 years ago, we've, as a species, we've lightened up a lot, even though with some people, I know it doesn't look like it, but especially the light workers that are really doing the work and crystallizing their body from carbon, we've transmuted so much and become so much lighter. We're becoming more ethereal beings, even though we still feel solid. We're becoming more ethereal and getting to that lightness, but, kind of taking our bodies with us, which I guess would be the whole process, to ascend, to go upwards.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you were saying something about astral travel there. And actually, some people call it soul travel. And that is not traveling in the astral body, but traveling by consciousness. And there really is no limitations to the distance you can go. And right now on the mastermind connection that we have created, Nori Love and I'm teaching a course on astral travel. So if somebody want to get involved with that, they can just contact me. And there is really some interesting things going on. Now, another thing that you mentioned is when you get out there, time gets goofy. Because
my gosh,
really,
yes.
we were talking on the phone before the show.
Yes.
Just maybe spend about a minute, and then I want you to talk about where people can get a hold of you. So time slippage is really a tricky thing.
Yes, it is. And it's something, sometimes it's hard to describe unless it's happened to you. But oh my gosh, definitely. Because, in a sense, on those levels, there is no time. And even in the human experiences, like when you have something so amazing happen to you, it could even be connecting with an old soulmate friend or someone getting into a romantic relationship, and the sparks are there and they're really in an elevated place of consciousness. And they're like, oh my God, time stood still, like those kind of moments. Mm-hmm. Or we have a place in Florida called Alligator Alley, and I will swear, and I've talked to other light workers, and sometimes it's so nice to get that confirmation. I will drive through there once in a while. It's not often, but sometimes to do events on the other side of Florida. And there's a time slip there. You go through there so quickly and you don't know how you came in and went out. It's like, I don't know if there's a portal or whatever, but it's like, time slips are interesting, and especially in astral travel, you can feel like you've been gone for weeks or months.
Yeah. Oh, I see now we got 4 minutes left of the show. So please let people know what you're doing and where they can get a hold of you and how you can help.
Awesome. So the best place, my website is still under construction, but I'm hoping to have that done soon. And that's just angels911.com. Eventually you can reach me there. And on Facebook under Rebecca Renee, REBEKAHRENEE. And my email is soulfire, SOLEFIRE 444 @gmail.com. And I do a lot of stuff. Obviously, we're in a time of slowing down right now, but I teach classes and do events. And my friend and I do retreats together sometimes. All spirit-led things. So, but yeah, amazing stuff.
Yeah, you are a healer, so maybe they could mention that website again, because this show will last forever.
Yeah, angels911.com. And you can still go to it, but I'm going to have like a store on it eventually, hopefully done soon. And then again, Facebook, Rebecca Renee. Yeah, and I do private sessions and group work sometimes also. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Wow, this is something that for people that has thought about it, think about it again, because a lot of times we're struggling with issues that we can't solve all by ourselves. Sometimes we need some help because other people like yourself, we've been through a lot of stuff and we can help. So I suggest get in touch with Rebecca, because chances are she can actually do something that make a difference.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah. And now like I said before the show, this is going to get deep, and it did.
I know. It's like you could go on forever. There's so many experiences we've all had, and it's in so many different ways that things appear to us where they might not appear to another person. And sometimes we can take people with us just, through our energy. For example, Augie, you could walk down the street in your hometown and your energy feels so huge that you're healing or clearing the people around you, and it's on autopilot.
Yeah, I understand that term. So yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you very much for being the guest with us here. This was interesting, and I want to have you back on maybe in a little while, because there's so much that you're talking about that we need to hear. So thank you very much. And next week we will be back again with the Universal Consciousness Show. So hang in there with us and come on back next week. Until then, be good to each other.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This has been the Universal Consciousness Show.
The Universal Consciousness Show.
Your weekly guide to a deeper understanding of the all that we are.
Well, in a few years, it will be a matter of common sense to very many people that they're one with the universe. It'll be so simple.
Live Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, hosts, or their guests, please visit universal-consciousness-show.com. That's universal-consciousness-show.com. Remember, there's a shift coming. A new earthly paradigm. A shift to universal consciousness.
Universal Consciousness.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.